All right, guys. As promised, this video serves the purpose for showing you how we can model the process of a text-oriented lease and a non-text-oriented lease into Excel. So what we did in class was that, let me zoom in this a little bit. We've begun with a input section where we should have some input about the equipment. So including the cost of the equipment, right? That's number one. The life of equipment, the number of years following the MACRS, and then there's a scrap value at the end of life. There's a maintenance expense, right? So these are about the equipment. So I'm gonna, depends on which section you are, I probably put the numbers of the input in different columns, but for now, we're just gonna do column F. Okay, so for the cost of equipment, it's $10,000. The life is 10 years. MACRS is 5 years. Script value is going to be 50,000. So maintenance expense is 500,000 each year. Then we have some financial information. For example, the marginal tax rate for the company is 25%. The cost of debt is 10%. This is before tax cost of debt. So the after tax cost of debt will be just equal to this 10%, right? This 10% multiplied with 1 minus the tax rate, okay? 7.5%. So I'm gonna make it like this, a little more formatting. And then with some input about the lease, the annual lease payment will be 2,600. The term of the lease will be also 5 years. The residual value or salvage value after the lease, depending on which section you are, I put. I always have this $2,000 to $1 million, but it can be in the upper section as well as it can be here, but I'm just keeping one copy here. So the option to purchase at predetermine the price is a no, right? This is a yes or no question, yes or no question. The guarantee payment of the price of equipment, also if it's a no, also a yes or no question. And then if it's a limit use property, okay. Limit use property, it's also a no, okay, which, this is a model, so these are just placeholders. And then we're gonna do whether it's a text oriented or non-text oriented lease. Is that text oriented lease or a non-text oriented lease? So there are 5 rules. The first one is the lease term must be less than 80% of the estimated useful life of the equipment. Okay, so we say we want to use a if statement. So if the lease term divided by life is less than 80%, then we say it meets the requirement. Otherwise, we say it fails. the requirement. Okay, so I need quotes. Okay, so it meets the requirement. I'm gonna format this a little bit. And then the next one says the estimated residual value should be at least 20% of its value at the start of lease. So we're going to do the same thing. If the residual value divided by cost, the initial value, greater than or equal to 20%, then we say it meets the requirement. Otherwise, we say fails the requirement. There we go. So then we say no option to buy at predetermined price, no pay for guarantee payments, guarantee payments of the price of the equipment. Third, last one is not limited use property. Okay, so I mean it's the same thing, the same if statement. If this equals to a no, then we say it's the requirement, else we say it fails the requirement. Okay, so I'm going to copy and change the cell reference. Okay, so that this is referring to F16, and the last one, this is referring to F17. Okay, where we put limit use property as a no. Okay. Okay, so up until here is what we have done in class. So what we want to do now is to actually have a cell that's like, I want to put it here. That's going to return us whether it is a tax-oriented lease or it is not a tax-oriented lease. So I also want to use an if statement equals to if. So basically, you want every one of them to be meets the requirement, right? So if, for example, the first one, I want to say, okay, this equals to meet the requirement. That's the first logic test. But what about the others, right? So what you can do is to give it a parenthesis, okay, and then use a multiply sign of the second criteria. So the second one will be this A23 equals to meet the requirement. Okay, so that's the second one. So we can just put 2 there and try. If they both are, let's just assume, hypothetically, just to try. If both requirements are met, we call them the tax-oriented lease. Oriented lease. I'm gonna give it to this. Otherwise, it's non-tax oriented lease. Okay, so as you can see, I got a tax-oriented lease, right? It's because both the first and the second requirements are satisfied. So if I change this ratio, this number, estimated residual value must be at least 20%. So if I change it to 1,000, it's going to be less than 20% because it's going to be 1,000 over 10,000. That's 10%. So if I hit enter, it should be a non-tax oriented lease because this one fails the requirement. Okay. So following the same idea, what we want to do is we want to keep going and add the other criteria. So A23, A24, sorry, A25 meet the requirement. And then we keep going, multiply with A27 equal to the requirement. And then we also multiply A29 equals to meet the requirement. Okay. So then it's, I mean, we have all the 5 rules entered here, and they are multiplying with each other. That basically means if any one of these fails, then it's going to be a fail. So otherwise, it's, you need to meet every one of these for it to be a text-oriented lease. So if I hit enter, it's still a text-oriented lease. So we want to follow the rules for a text-oriented lease, okay, in the calculation. So if it's a text-oriented lease, we need a, because this is the input section, we already have a name for it. This is the text-oriented or non-text-oriented lease. This is the second part. So in the third part, let's give it a name, just call it calculation, I guess. I don't know. So in the calculation, what we did in class is we first evaluate the first option, that is the borrowing and buy. So in the borrowing and buy, we first evaluate the loan, right? So let's just do the same thing. The option 1 is gonna be borrow and buy. Okay, borrow and buy. So we'll need a year, right? Year. I want to start in column C, I think. Yeah, at year 0, 0, and 1, right? So that plus 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a 5-year lease, right? So then what we want to do is we want to say the loan. We have the loan payment, we have the interest. Oh, as you can see, the year 0 is like too close, so I have to scooch everything over. The second one is loan payment. Okay, so this is a what? This is a non-amortizing loan, right? So the interest payment will just be the cost of debt, 10%, multiplied with the amount of the loan, which is 10,000. Okay, so I need to put dollar signs in front of both of these so that when I copy and paste, I don't change the cell reference. This, okay, it's still referring to F9, which is the interest rate, and F2, which is the cost of equipment. And the principal is just equals to the cost of equipment. Okay, 10,000 cost of equipment. Okay, so then we have a after-tax interest, right? Loan payment after-tax interest. It equals to the interest payment times 1 minus the tax rate, which is 25%. Okay, but this 25% have to be, you have to put dollar signs so that again, when I copy and paste, I have the same cell reference. Okay, so I can have a loan payment after tax total. It's gonna be this plus this. Oh, hold on, I'm wrong. It's gonna be this plus this. Okay, so in the earlier years, the after-tax interest plus 0 principal. But in the last year, I have the after-tax interest plus the principal. Okay. All right. So that's the learn part. And then I need the depreciation, right? Depreciation rate. So again, the depreciation rate will be given in any scenario. You don't need to figure it out. You basically, it's like a set of rules that you cannot really figure it out. 0.192, 0.115, 0.115, sorry, 0.1152, and then 0.0576. Okay, so the depreciation expense will just to be the depreciation rate multiplied with the cost of equipment, which is the original book value, and then I put dollar signs in front of it. So I got the depreciation expense. No, copy and paste. I got these. So try to recall what we did in class. That is the last year. This year is not gonna. We are not gonna be able to claim the depreciation this year. But we should be able to figure out the book value at the end of the year so that we can calculate the tax we pay on the residual value, right? So we should have another row called the remaining book value. Okay, remaining book value. So this is going to be in the first year, it's gonna be basically just the original cost of equipment minus this 2000, right? Right. So then in the next year, it's actually gonna be the previous remaining book value minus the current remaining the current depreciation. Okay. So if I copy this to the end, I have a 0. Okay. So that all the money, all the value, all the book value is depreciated. So this the way we're doing this right now, what I don't like is the inconsistency of the formula. That is, if you look at this, we have a formula like this. So this number minus this number, this one, this number minus this number. So they are like the same thing, the previous minus the current depreciation. But if you look at this one, it is not. So I also want to do it. So I want to use the previous number minus the depreciation. But as you can see, this is essentially a 0. So I'm just to say this is going to be equal to the cost of equipment, and I put dollar signs around it. So that, in a 5-year lease model, whenever I change this, okay, this will also change. Okay. So for example, if the cost of equipment is $3 million, you're going to see these are also changing. You have different numbers. Okay. If it's just $10,000, it's like this. Okay, so that's the remaining book value. We just eliminate there. And then we can have the depreciation tax shield, right? Depreciation tax shield. So the depreciation tax shield will be the depreciation expense multiplied with the tax rate, which is 25%. And I need a dollar sign, and I'm copying and pasting. I don't need the last year once again. I just need to stop right here. So that's the additional depreciation we get, additional tax savings we get for the additional depreciation. So then the next thing we want to do is we want to look at the maintenance cost, right? Maintenance cost. It's going to be 500,000, 500K, but it's due at the beginning of each year. So I'm just going to put it here, and I said this equals to this. All right, so this is what you can do. But the problem is we did have an input section with the maintenance cost. So I really want to link it, link the model to the input section rather than just hard coding the 500. So I'm going to say this equals to the maintenance expense that's here. So F4, 6, and the others is just the same as the first number. Okay. So as you may also argue that, okay, so you have the same inconsistency in formula because this equals to whatever is on the top, this equals to the previous one, right? But you can also do this so that everything is equals to whatever is on the top. Okay. All right. So the after tax maintenance cost will be this times 1 minus tax rate 25%. Okay. and pasting these here. Okay, so I have after-tax maintenance cost. So so that's the maintenance. And lastly, the salvage value. Salvage value. So the salvage value is gonna be at the end of the period. So $2 million. Okay. So it's equals to F14. I'm just referring to the input cell. And remaining book value, so that we can calculate the tax, equals to this 576, right? Remaining book value. Okay. So tax on salvage value equals to this, right? Parentheses. This, the amount you got minus the book value, which is essentially your expense, multiply with the tax rate. So it is here. 25%. I got 356. And then I'll call it salary. I don't remember what I call it in class, but I'll call it salvage value after tax. Okay. So it's gonna be this 2000 minus 376. Sorry, 356. Okay. I got 1644. Okay. All right. So what's the problem? The problem is we didn't really put in any plus or minus, right? Up until now, every number is positive. We don't know whether it's a cash inflow or outflow, right? So up until now, what we want to do is we want to gather the net cash flow, right? So at this moment, because we didn't label the previous calculation with positive or negatives, it's going to be a little complicated, right? Because we need to figure out, okay, so this is not something we need. So is this a positive or negative? Should we subtract this or should we add this? So it's pretty, I mean, when you have 4, it's okay. When you have 10, it's pretty easy to lose track. So a good idea is actually to label these as negative numbers. Okay. So the maintenance cost is going to be negative 500 and negative 375. And depreciation tax field will just be positives. Okay, it's going to be a adding number, but the loan payment will absolutely be in negatives, right? This and this will be a negative. Okay. So given all these, all we need to do is just to do a summation. So maintenance cost plus the after-tax loan payment. Okay, it's 0 in the first year, but it's not going to be in the next year. Then plus depreciation tax field. So that's the third one. Okay. So, and the fourth one, it is the after-tax salvage value. Okay. All right. So I got negative 375, and I got 625, 325, this, and 8818. I think they are the same as what we got in class. Okay. And then I just need to calculate the present value, the value of borrow and buy. So it's gonna be the NPV. I'm gonna use the NPV function. The after-tax cost of debt is the discount rate. Okay, after-tax cost of debt is the discount rate, and the value is that we're gonna do this. We're gonna select these. That is, we're selecting the cash flows from year 1 and beyond. We don't select anything in year 0 because the NPV function will automatically discount the first cash flow for a year, the second cash flow for 2 years. So if I include the first one, it's actually going to discount this 375. So I don't want it. So I don't want to include the first one. Instead, I just add this one. Okay, so that the first number is not discounted and the others are discounted by the correct number of years. So then I need to hit enter. I got a very weird formatting, so I'm going to make it $, and do this. Okay, Okay, no more. Okay, there you go. So do this. All right, so this is the same as what we got in class. Okay, so 8526. So this is borrow and buy. So as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have 4 parts with a salvage value. Okay, and then what we need to do is to evaluate the option 2. Option 2, which is leasing. In the leasing, we will have lease payment. That's once again due at the beginning of each year. So I'm gonna call it negative, right? Just to learn from what we missed earlier. Negative of the annual payment. Okay. 5 of them, they're the same. And then we need the after tax lease payment, or I call it lease payment after tax. Okay, so it's this number times 1 minus the tax rate. I know it's F8. That's here, F8. Okay. And then I need to copy and paste. I got 1950. And that's it. So I need the value of leasing. It's the same thing because the first year shouldn't be discounted. So I need to do NPV of after-tax cost of debt and these 4 cash flows, 7 and plus this. Okay. Lease payment. Okay. Enter. So I got a number. Okay, so this is the 8481, so the same number. Okay, so NAL, net advantage lease, NAL will just be the value of leasing minus the value of borrow and buy. So you got 45. This is greater than 0, right? So we can have another if statement. It equals to if this number, the net advantage to leasing is greater than 0, then we say lease to save. Okay, lease. Otherwise, we say lease doesn't save. Okay, so as you can see, it says lease to save. Okay, so this is the tax-oriented lease. Tax-oriented lease. Okay, so we have, so this is the whole model. So we have the input section, okay, where we input information about the equipment, the financial of the company, and the lease. Okay, and then we decide to test whether this can be a tax-oriented lease or non-tax-oriented lease, and then we can do the calculation to evaluate whether it's a good lease or a bad lease, good to lease or not good to lease. You just need to be aware that there's such a salvage value that you need to pay tax on. Okay, and the salvage value after tax is just 2,000 minus 356, which is the tax you pay, rather than 2,000 minus 576, then minus 356. This is just the remaining book value. It's not a cash flow. Okay, you don't need to pay it. Okay, so that's the tax-oriented lease. Okay, and then what I need to have is the non-tax-oriented lease. So it's a good idea if you can find out the example numbers. I'm not gonna go back to the numbers. Go back to the slides for the numbers. Instead, I'm just gonna look at the Excel. So I'm gonna create a copy of the current slide. Okay, so I'm gonna rename it to non-text oriented lease. Okay, So because the reason I do it is because whatever is on the top is going to be very similar. Okay. So for example, the cost of equipment, we just need to change the number. It's going to be 36,000, right? The life will be 4 years. The MACRS will be 3. The maintenance cost will be 3,000. Okay. The script value after at the end of life, it doesn't matter. I'll just say 0. Okay. So the cost of debt is 10. After tax cost of debt is 7.5%, and the tax rate will be 25%. So the same thing. Okay. So then it's the lease. The lease payment will be 11,000 this time. The lease term will be 4 years, and the residual value after it will be 0. Okay. So I also have these 3 notes, but the issue is the numbers here, the lease term and the residual value after lease, they basically fails the requirement. So it's a non-tax oriented lease. Okay, so if it's a non-tax oriented lease, we just need to, we don't really need to do much, but we need to change the output a little bit, because in this example, the borrow and buy option is no longer a non-amortizing loan, but instead it's an amortizing loan. So we need to figure out how much interest and principal we're paying each year. Okay, so let's just change these. So we of course will need the year, and the year should stop at year 4 because this is a 4-year lease. So I don't really need these 2 columns. So I'm gonna take them away. So, and then we need to figure out the loan payment, the principal payment, the after-tax loan interest, and the after-tax total. So these are fine. It's just we need to take a couple steps to figure out the loan payment. Okay, so the first thing first, let's say total loan payment. Okay, total loan payment. So to figure out the total loan payment, how do we do it? If it's an amortizing loan and the payment of the and the present value is $36,000, the loan is going to last 4 years. The cost of debt is 10%. You can use the present value formula, right? So the way I want to do it is that I want to have another row, and I'll call it a loan payment. Okay, and I'll put it here. So it so let's put it in the upper section in here. So in the input section, I have after-tax cost of debt, and I have loan payment. So the loan payment should be equal to the PMT function, which is equivalent to the financial calculator PMT. So the cost of debt should be 10%. The number of period is 4. The present value should be negative of 36,000. And that's it. I got this number. We gotta make it a dollar number and do this. Okay. Okay. Okay, so this is the loan payment. So then what I need to do is to say, okay, so the total loan payment is just this number. I got this. And then because this loan is amortizing, so I just need to have the split it into interest and the principal. And the interest payment here in a not amortizing loan, it is the interest rate multiplied with the total principal. That's all right because the principal doesn't decrease. But in the amortizing loan, the principal should decrease, so this interest should also decrease. Okay, so what can I do? So what I have to do is that I have to have a running, I have to have a running row to keep the balance of the loan. Balance, too many. So the loan balance should be like this. So in year 0, the balance should be 36,000, right? And the in year one, there should be an interest payment, which equals to the previous balance multiplied with the cost of debt, that's 10%, okay, 3,600. And then the principal payment should be the difference between the loan payment and the interest payment, that is this number. And then the loan balance should be the previous balance minus the current principal, which is payment, current principal payment, so which is this number. Okay, and then I will just need to drag these through. Oh, what's going on? What's going on? Let's check. Oh, okay. F9, G9, H9. So this is one, right? And this dollar sign. All right. So the last period is 0, right? Okay. So we got the loan payment payments. I'll give it better formatting so that everything is the same formatting again. Okay. So I want this to be 64. Okay. All right. Good. Okay. So so the loan payment after interest will be the interest times 1 minus the tax rate. So after tax interest, so the same thing. I'll just give it a different formatting once again. Okay. And then the loan payment after tax total will be the principal plus the interest. There we go. Again, give it another formatting. Okay, so this is the loan payment. So the issue is we want this number to be negative, right? Because these are actual payments, even though we can have some tax savings, but they are still payments. So at this point, everything is just too tight. So I want to increase it. Okay, so that is less tight. Okay, so this is the loan payment. We're done with the borrow and buy loan payment. And then if you borrow and buy, you're going to have depreciation. The depreciation rate should change. So it's going to be 33.3333. This is going to be 0.4445. Then it's going to be 0.1481. And the last year will be 0.074. Okay, it's going to be these. So depreciation expense is depreciation rate times the 36,000, which is correct. So we're really saving some time here. Okay. So the remaining book value is going to be the same thing, the same formula. Its numbers are going to be different. So we have the depreciation tax shield being depreciation tax shield being 667 in the last year, right? Which is the same as what we did in class. Well, these as well. Okay. So then it's the maintenance cost. If you borrow and buy, you just always have to have the maintenance cost. So the maintenance cost is 3,000, and here it's 3,000, and after tax is 2250. So we won't have any salvage value because the salvage value at the end will be 0, so it doesn't matter. So then lastly, one more thing is that the maintenance expense starts at the end of year 1, right? This is year 1, so this is the end of year 1. So we don't have any maintenance expense here, so we just need to take it off. Okay, so then we don't have any salvage value. Then we have the net cash flow. So net cash flow will be, there's no salvage value, after tax maintenance plus depreciation tax bill, then minus the loan after tax loan payment, right? So so I'm gonna again format these a little bit. Okay, so I think these numbers are the same. Yep, these numbers are the same as what we did in class, and this is NPV. Okay, evaluated at 7.5%. Same thing. Okay, I got 35711. Okay, Then leasing is a little more complicated than operating lease, right? So in leasing, we first need to figure out the imputed interest. There will be the maintenance cost will stay the same, but we need to figure out the imputed interest. We need to figure out to figure out the imputed interest, we need to figure out the lease liabilities. Okay, to figure out the imputed interest, we need to figure out the lease liability. Okay, so yeah, so let's just begin with something very similar like here. The total lease payment, then we have uh, lease payment imputed interest, lease payment lease liabilities. Okay, so we can, or you know what, let's change this to loan payment total, right? Just to have a very consistent way of naming it, I guess. Okay, so I'm gonna copy these. Okay, I cannot copy these. Oh, never mind. Lease here. I need to insert a couple more rows and then copy these. Copy these. Okay, so I'll put everything here. So instead of loan payment, I'll call it lease payment. And this is lease payment, and it's not interest, but imputed interest. This is lease payment, and I'll call it lease liability. Okay. And I'll call it lease liability balance. Okay, this is lease payment after tax imputed interest, right? Oh, this is a little too much. So yeah, let's just leave it after tax lease payment after tax total. Okay, so the lease payment total is just the total lease payment we got here. So I'm just gonna cut these and put them here. Okay, so lease payment. I don't need this. And this. We had these. So the value of leasing, because we deleted the important row, the value of leasing will be giving us a reference error. But don't worry, when we fill everything up, we're gonna have it. So I cannot call it imputed interest. I'll call it imputed INT. Okay. All right, so this is the lease payment. Once again, lease payment starts in year 1, and there's only 4 payments, so we're going to keep it like this. So the imputed interest really depends on the cost of debt and the lease liability. So we need the lease liability to be here, just very similar as the here loan payment here. So what I need to do is to insert a row here called lease liability. Okay. You only need this if it's an operating lease. Sorry, if it's a financial lease. If it's an operating lease, you don't really need it, but you can always have it. So the lease liability is the present value of the 4 lease payments, right, over the next 4 years at a discount rate of 10%. So it's going to be PV of 10% cost of debt. MPER is the term of the lease, 4 years, and the lease payment is this. So I need to put a negative sign in front of it. So I have negative 11,000. So I got this. Okay, 34869. 3848685, something like that. Okay, so the lease liability in year 0 will just be that number, this number. Okay, just be the lease liability. So here I have a negative sign. I understand that this is going to be a payment, but this is going to be a little confusing to work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the negative sign. So then the imputed interest will be the previous lease liability multiplied with the cost of debt. Don't forget the dollar signs. And I got this. And oh, sorry. So the lease liability should go here. Okay, should be here. And this should refer to this lease liability balance rather than lease liability. So Then the payment to lease liability is the difference between the two. Then the remaining lease balance is previous minus the current. Okay. Okay. So then I need to copy and paste like this. And as you can see, the last lease liability balance is 0. Okay. Okay. So then the payment towards liability is not going to be tax deductible, but the payment towards the imputed interest will be tax deductible. So it's going to be the same idea. The imputed interest multiplied with 1 minus the tax rate, 25%, F4, parentheses, copy and paste, right, like that. Okay, so okay, so the total payment, I'll just use the equals to minus these liability plus after tax imputed interest. Okay, like this. Okay, so that's the lease part, and then I need the tax savings from depreciation. Depreciation tax field. So it's gonna just be the same as the depreciation tax field up here. So I'm just gonna say it equals to that number, and then maintenance cost, right? I'll call it after tax maintenance. This one. Okay. It's the same thing. It equals to this number. It'll be the same. Okay. So format, give me a format, right, like this, right? So the difference between this format and this format, I think this should be the accounting format. Yeah, so it should be accounting format. So let me change everything to the accounting format. Okay, so I got this. And the what is it? Net cash flow. We'll just do the lease payment plus depreciation tax shield plus the sorry, plus the after tax maintenance cost. And I got everything here, and then the period of leasing. That's value of leasing. Okay, value of leasing. It's gonna be the same thing like the MPV formula. I'm just gonna copy and paste it here. 34580. Okay, same idea. Negative and negative. And then what I can do is I can bring these back. Right, net advantage to leasing is just gonna be this, right? The value of leasing minus the value of borrow and buy. I got a positive number, so we wanna lease to save. Okay, so that's the end of these two models. So once again, these two models should serve the purpose to help you understand how this process works and what are the important kind of things that's going to happen to your income statement and balance sheet if you decide to lease or if you decide to borrow and buy. Okay, and what's the tax impact that's going to help us, make the analysis. And also how you can identify whether it's a tax-oriented or non-tax-oriented lease. They're listed here. Okay, so using this model, it's gonna help make a pretty easy recommendation for you. Okay, and that's it. So if you have any questions about these two models, let me know. I'll see you tomorrow. I want to say see you tomorrow, but who knows when you are going to watch this video. So I'll see you Tuesdays and Fridays, okay, when there's no breaks.